I would like for you all to think of your favorite movie. Either your favorite, either it's your favorite because it was funny or it's memorable, but where did movies even come from? It's important that we learn the history of cinema, especially since it's been around longer than we've even been alive. Me personally, I've watched movies all throughout my life, and I've learned all about filmmaking either from watching movies or from a class I'm taking here at Ball State. Today, I'm going to educate you on the people and inventions that brought cinema to life, the influence and creation of Hollywood, and the start and end of the golden age of Hollywood. It all started in 1872 when a man named Leland Stanford made a bet with another man that a horse lifted all four of his feet off the ground when galloping. He asked a nature photographer by the name of Muybridge to capture it and prove it. In doing this, Muybridge created series photography. According to Sherman Russell, the author of A Brief History of Cinema, series photography was a critical first step towards motion pictures. Later on, people like Thomas Edison and Louis Lumiere would use celluloid film in their inventions, with Thomas Edison in 1891 making the kinetoscope, which is a big box that you would look into through a tiny lens where celluloid film would be pulled across and wound up inside so you could watch a movie. But the only problem was only one person could view at a time. So, Louis Lumiere invented the cinematograph, which could play out to several people and is known as the basis and start of filmmaking. Later on, a man named George Méliès saw filmmaking as an opportunity for entertainment. He created the movie A Trip to the Moon and brought several people in America to the movie theater business, but they had to, if they wanted to make a movie, they had to go through Thomas Edison first. According to O'Brien Garrett, the author of Thomas Edison, the Unintentional Founder of Hollywood, over 289 legal complaints were directed at Universal Studios alone. Any movie being made at the time had to go through Thomas Edison, making him the king of cinema. Thomas Edison owned the Motion Picture Patent Company, which basically said anyone that wanted to make a movie had to go and pay him first. At the time, cinema was mainly in New York, based in New York, and people realized if they could just move away and escape his reach, that he really couldn't influence them. So, people from New York and all across the world all moved over to Los Angeles and created their own studios and businesses there. Eventually, this led to the end of the Motion Picture Patent Company and the creation of Hollywood. During that time in Los Angeles, people monopolized the filmmaking business. They generated tons and tons of wealth, and this led to the creation of sound in 1927 with Sam Warner. Warner Brothers released The Jazz Singer, which was wildly successful and brought sound to filmmaking, and just 2 years later, the Great Depression started, which forced studios to basically survive and dominate as much as they could to stay in business. The start of the Great Depression basically led to the start of the Golden Age, which forced 8 major studios like MGM, Warner Brothers, Paramount, Universal, all to introduce several unfair business practices to stay in business. One of these business practices was they would sell all their movies in package deals, to where if you wanted to buy a feature film like Gone with the Wind, you would have to buy some cheap, low-budget Western film in this all one big package deal, which generated tons of income for studios. Another thing they would do is they would focus on the central producer role rather than any other actors or directors. And a good example of this is Irving Thalberg, which was the central producer for MGM, and he created several movies during his time with MGM and oversaw almost all the movies that came out during that time, and eventually led to his early death in his late 20s just because of how much work he did. The third thing they would do is they would have super low and multi-year contracts with actors that basically if the actors didn't want to do something, then the contract would be extended. And the fourth thing they would do is they would focus on what they're good at, on what they were good at. Universal would do horror films, Warner Brothers would do crime thrillers, and MGM would do rich, lavish lifestyle movies, which is probably why they did so well, since everyone was so poor. But eventually this all had to come to an end when the actress who played Mulaney in Gone with the Wind decided to sue Warner Brothers for extending her contract. This led to the American government filing an antitrust case against all the major studios called the Paramount decision. The Paramount decision said that all the studios had to stop selling all their films in one big package deal, and they could no longer monopolize their business. And with televisions becoming sort of a household item around the 1940s and 50s, people no longer really had a reason to go out and watch movies, and this led to the end of the golden age of Hollywood. But the golden age of Hollywood did bring a lot of famous movie titles. According to Hellerman, Jason, and Charles Hayne, the authors of When Was the Golden Age of Hollywood, popular movies during the golden age were The Wizard of Oz, Wonderful Life, Casablanca, King Kong, and Gone with the Wind. In conclusion, we've learned about the inventions and people that brought cinema to life, Thomas Edison's unconventional creation of Hollywood, and the unfair business practices studios used during the golden age. It's important that we learn about America's history and cinema and continue to learn more. If you would like to learn more, you could either ask me or take a class here at Ball State. Thank you for your time.